There's something strange in the neighborhood. There's something weird, and it don't look good. Who are you gonna call? The Ghostbusters RPG was created in 1986 by West End Games and remains to this day the only officially licensed Ghostbusters RPG. Yeah, in an era where nearly every IP you can imagine has been rebooted with a tabletop equivalent, Ghostbusters hasn't been touched since its original incarnation. In fact, it's completely free to get online. Don't get me wrong, there's the usual serial number filing we see in the industry, but for something that's seen so many adaptations as a medium, nothing official. And somehow, despite being such an old system, it's actually really good and easy to use. It's remarkably similar in style to modern rules-light systems. This is a system where the rule of cool, and especially comedy, presides over anything else. So if your idea is really clever or makes the whole table laugh, congrats. It will most likely work. So players roll a pool of d6 to determine actions. These pools are determined by 4 traits. They are brains, muscles, move, and cool. No stat can be higher than 5 at character creation, and each one must have at least 1 dice in it. Each trait has a talent, like a specialized field where the player gets 3 additional dice when that trait applies. So, for example, let's say you have a cool of 2. You'd roll 2d6 on most circumstances that would apply. But if you have play poker as a talent, that pool increases to 5d6, so you can get some weird savant stuff going. Dan, play that gif of the math scene from Hangover? Yeah, good stuff. And that's it. Players must roll and add dice to overcome challenges set by the Game Master, called the Ghost Master. Yeah, I know. And the difficulty can go from 0 to 30 on a scale of easy to impossible. There are 2 things that can influence this process. First of all, there's the ghost dice. One of the dice in your dice pool is designated as the ghost dice. If the player rolls a 6 on that dice, or has somehow found an original custom dice from the 80s for the system that has a ghost in the place of the 6, something bad happens to that player regardless of success or failure. If that 6 is rolled, it also doesn't add to the total. So let's say you're trying to eat a telephone. If you succeed and roll the ghost dice, you do eat the telephone, but you probably are going to get electrocuted. I mean, a little bit. If you fail and roll the ghost dice, you're likely going to the hospital to have the telephone parts extracted from you. I didn't pull that out of my ass, by the way. That's literally the example they give in the book. Also, if the Ghostmaster rolls the ghost dice, the negative effects hit the players, not the ghosts or NPCs they're controlling. The other mechanic is brownie points. Yep, our meta currency for this game. Brownie points do 2 things: add dice before rolling and negate negative effects. Players start with 20. If that seems like a lot, I will point out that the Game Master determines how many brownie points the player needs to sacrifice to get on unscathed, otherwise you take penalties to traits of your choice. You can regain points by completing missions, or botching them completely, or fulfilling one of your personal goals. These are things like Soul of Science, Fame, Wealth, Serving Humanity, and Sex. Yeah, you get rewarded for getting laid in this system. Did I mention this was a comedy game? There's also equipment cards that players can take with them for Ghostbusters gear for a job. However, each Ghostbuster can only take 3 items, so someone's got to remember to carry the car keys. You can store more equipment in the car. And now combat. Initiative is determined by who has a higher move trait versus the ghost's power. You can also fight humans, but it isn't the focus of the game. Players can move and take 1 action on their turn. If 2 players are in melee, the attacker rolls their muscle plus a pickable talent, and the opposing player defends. Of course, not all combat is necessarily about hitting each other, so use the applicable stat, or trait in this case. If you are in ranged combat, the difficulty to hit is 5 for point-blank range, 10 at normal range, and 20 for long distance, although there's some flexibility depending on the situation and approximate distances. The rules for what counts for those ranges aren't clearly defined beyond being in range to hit something in melee and being so far away it takes more than a move action to get there, so it's kind of fiddly. Additionally, there's no real death status in this system and barely anything to regard damage apart from what I listed earlier. This is not a system where you're more likely to die. In fact, it's very rare unless you do something extensively stupid. Apart from that, make it up. This is a super easy system. Last thing you need to know is how to bust a ghost. Ghosts have 2 stats to mess with you: their power and their ectopresence. Or is how many dice they have to interact with the world, which can be detected and measured with PKA meters and such. Ectopresence is a kind of health. Successfully hitting a ghost with the old proton pack, using the gun part I mean, don't go swinging the whole pack like grandma's purse, reduces the ectopresence by 1. If the Ghostbuster rolls to hit and it is twice the number needed to hit the ghost, the ectopresence goes down by 2, and so on the higher the multiplier from the target number. You need 2 proton packs working in tandem to trap a ghost, but don't cross the streams. Additionally, ghosts can have goals which can be discovered by the player to help bring the ghosts down, and yes, they can have the same ones as humans. See earlier about more, carnal pursuits. Ghosts also have special abilities and can gain an additional ability for each point of power they possess. These are things like possession, animate objects, and sliming things, of course. Players can also use occult rituals and such to try and summon or weaken the ghosts, but the whole thing is just for ambiance and mostly for fun. And that is the Ghostbusters RPG. It requires a lot of imagination, some fiddling, but it's a lot of fun for a free rules-light RPG, and I encourage you to check it out. The rest of you will just have to watch us play it on D20 Live.